Cine, the Council on International Non-Theatrical Events, has awarded this film a Golden Eagle in token of its excellence and has selected it to represent the United States of America in international motion picture events abroad.
Alone with his thoughts on a windswept beach, B.F. Skinner's placid appearance belies the controversial hurricane that rages and swirls around him. A grandfather, a teacher, a scientist, he is perhaps best known for the experimental analysis of behavior and its consequences. His work has been both applauded and attacked because it details methods to shape and control the behavior of others. From the beginning of time, when man first walked through the primeval forests on the planet Earth, he has been curious to explain his own behavior. Often he has attributed his actions to the sun, the movement of the tides, or the work of demons. But it was not until the 20th century that the school of behavioral psychology was finally formalized, stressing objective study and the prediction and control of all animal behavior with no special preference for the behavior of man. Drawing upon the work of those who preceded him, B.F. Skinner developed the first completely controlled environment, the Skinner box, and he was able to standardize experiments in behavior to a degree never before possible.
This bird has been
so well defined did his work become that Skinner was able to question traditional human concepts such as mind, soul, and the human spirit, isolating behavior as its own entity, separate from all other aspects of life.
Well, I'm going to try to get it to do something. Suppose I shape up the behavior of making a complete turn. What I do is simply, as I did then, to wait for some part of that behavior. There's more of it, you see.
Skinner believes that the experimental analysis of behavior suggests that man's environment performs many of the functions once attributed to his inner feelings. A man feels free if he believes he is free, and he will believe he is free if he is conditioned by positive reinforcement to think so. His only hope is that he will come under the control of a natural and social environment which will enable him to pursue happiness successfully.
There we go, all the way around.
To understand the operant condition is you have to have conditioned a pigeon. There's a sense of power that you get when you press a button and can produce total control in this animal's behavior.
Dr. Charles Fester of the American University of the District of Columbia.
Now the power can move in many directions, the sense you get from this power. One direction it can move is the intellectual power of being able to think about behavior analytically, about human conduct analytically. The other direction is the personal sense that I pushed this button and I made him do what I wanted to do. And I think those two are rather closely tied and really an issue which cannot be evaded.
Part of the controversy around Skinner, I think, is very much like the controversy that surrounded Darwin in the 19th century and Copernicus in the 17th century. In both of those older cases and in this one, a source of controversy arises when someone comes along and says to people, you're not as important as you thought you were. Now, Copernicus said that the Earth is not the planet around which the other planets move. And people got very cross about that because they liked to think that their planet was the central planet. After a while,
the psychologist, historian, Dr. Richard Herrnstein of Harvard University.
Then Darwin said to people, and made them very angry, your body, I mean, your very being is not that special. It didn't take a special act of the good Lord. You can believe in the good Lord, but evolution is what made you. The good Lord maybe got this whole thing started, but natural selection produced man. And what Skinner is saying is he's invading now the most private of all places, the mind itself. And he's saying that isn't your private preserve either. Not only your planet and your body, but even your mind belongs to science and can be controlled and can be shaped and can be molded, and I can control it, he says, what's more. And that's alarming, to say the least.
The power to control another being's behavior inevitably creates controversy. The paramount issue is who controls the controller.
Well, I know that some people say that I'm some kind of monster bent on controlling the world. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I don't believe anyone can possibly emerge in the position of that kind of controller, except those who haven't, as in the past, taken certain kinds of measures, all of which I oppose, and have opposed violently. I'm simply pointing to the fact that we're always controlled and always manipulated. And I wanted people to know that so that they can understand it and face up to it and deal with it properly. I insist that people are controlled. But what they don't understand is that I don't believe that people control people. Environments control people.
Does this clock show 5 minutes past 4?
For B.F. Skinner, his life is the product of his work, and one must look only to his many contributions to understand the value he places on human life. A gifted inventor as well as scientist, Skinner pioneered and developed a device known as the teaching machine, an implement which allows each child in a classroom to learn at his own rate. This invention has changed forever the concepts of early education.
Okay, we're going to elect Citizen of the Week for last week. Can I have some nominations for guys that were the best citizens for last week? Phil?
If there is one thing to understand about Skinner's philosophy, it is that positive reinforcement is the prime mover of men. Here at the Spaulding Youth Center, children who have never before been able to adjust to normal classroom life are learning to cope through the use of positive reinforcement from the approval of their fellow classmates.
Okay, as soon as you're done, let me have it.
Just the use of criticism in place of approval. If the other person is doing something you don't like, then you tend to criticize, rather than to wait for the opportunity to approve and commend and show affection when something incompatible with that is being done. If you stop attacking the things you want to eliminate and instead strengthen the things which are incompatible with those things you want to eliminate and are the kinds of things you want to see, then a great change is made.
A dramatic example of the direct application of Skinner's principles is this chronicle of clinical footage which records the progress of a profoundly mentally retarded child. She has never walked. At first, she is required only to shuffle her feet while holding to a chair. Each time she puts forth this small bit of effort, she is rewarded with a small amount of ice cream. Gradually, the chairs are moved further apart, so that she stretches further to make the shift. No one coaxes or prods her. There is no punishment, only the positive reinforcement of the ice cream. As shifting becomes easier, the goals are increased. Now she walks hanging onto a rope suspended from the ceiling. She is really using it for support as she goes after her reward. Later, the rope is slackened, and now she is walking under her own power, even though she still holds the rope. Next, the rope is cut and gradually reduced in size. Still, she continues to walk to get the ice cream. If the rope is taken away, she falls. The size of the rope continues to be reduced until it is nothing more than a wad of string she carries in her clenched fist. At last, she drops the threads of her own accord. When she no longer needs her crutch, she readily discards it. Now she's walking independently, all in a matter of a few hours. It is easy to understand why B.F. Skinner was awarded the American Humanist Association's highest honor. Using the principles of positive reinforcement, psychotherapy can help many people to overcome problems they face in everyday life. This process of self-management is explained by Dr. Zev Wanderer.
From our experience at the Center for Behavior Therapy, Dr. Skinner's contribution is enormous because now psychotherapy is available to the person in the community. It's brief, it's highly effective, and it's low cost. For example, the case of Susan. She came in with vague stomach complaints. A behavioral analysis revealed that they were associated with social anxiety. We gave her some assertive training, and with the use of a biofeedback device, she's now confident, competent, and no longer has the stomach pains.
Susan, how's your assertive therapy practice going?
Well, when I meet people, if it's a guy that I'm not interested in, I have no problem and I can talk comfortably. But if it's someone who's attractive and who seems interesting, I just clam up.
Mm-hmm. Now, today we're going to use the pulse reader to work on these social situations.
Although B.F. Skinner does not work directly with biofeedback, his principles of positive reinforcement are being used in conjunction with such devices. Guided by the psychotherapist, Susan will confront the anxiety she feels in certain social situations. As she and the doctor practice such scenes together, she can see and hear her own heart rate with the aid of the biofeedback device. Each time she exercises more control, she is positively reinforced, both by the doctor and by knowing her heart rate is more normal. One of the central issues of Skinner's philosophy of behaviorism is that just like the pigeon, man is a predictable animal.
All gambling systems have a schedule that we call variable ratio. That explains why people gamble. The psychoanalysts say people gamble to hurt themselves, destroy themselves. Other people say they do gamble for the excitement and so on. Well, nonsense. You gamble because there is a certain schedule built into the gambling device or system, as in a horse race. And these same schedules will make a pathological gambler out of a pigeon as well as out of a person.
At the core of Skinner's work, be it applied to education, medicine, or psychology, is a quest for human adjustment and happiness. And when history makes its final judgment, there is little doubt that the work of B.F. Skinner will emerge as one of the major contributions to psychology in this century.
I know that many people have contended that my position in behaviorism is an effort to explain everything. But it doesn't mean for a moment that I think things are now explained. I'm altogether too well aware of how much still needs to be done.
For Fred Skinner, life is a never-ending challenge. Though now in his 70s, he still rises each morning at 5 o'clock in order to write for several hours before beginning his workday. Skinner has always led a full life, not only with his work, but away from it as well. Burrhus Frederick Skinner was born in Susquehanna, Pennsylvania in 1904. His father was a lawyer, and Skinner was once told that punishments were waiting if he turned out to have a criminal mind. However, Skinner's early years were warm and rewarding. He liked nature and exploring. He loved to build things and was forever inventing gadgets. Unlike most children, he liked school and excelled in his studies. In 1922, he enrolled in Hamilton College, majoring in English and working on the college newspaper. He is remembered by classmates as being a rather strange mix of both bookworm and extrovert, making history at the small college for perpetrating a hoax of enormous proportions. It was done in complicity with his friend John Hutchins, who with Skinner spread the word that the famous film star, Charlie Chaplin, was going to visit the college campus. Leaving nothing undone, they printed posters and published articles in the local newspapers. The hoax was a colossal success, turning the small college campus into a circus of confusion. No one knew who was responsible, certainly not the studious Fred Skinner. Entering Harvard University, Skinner became more like the man we know today. Except for occasional visits to a favorite coffee house, he led a life of near seclusion as he pursued his study of psychology. In the 1930s, he met and married Yvonne Blue. Several years later, their first daughter, Julie, was born. By the time his second daughter, Deborah, was born, Skinner had already begun to formulate his thoughts on behavior modification, and Deborah became the famous baby in a box. Skinner had invented what he called an air crib, a controlled environment that kept Deborah safe, dry, and at the right room temperature. Although applauded by some, the air crib became one of the first major controversies involving Skinner's work, and people accused him of using his own child as a guinea pig. Today, Deborah is an artist, and although she doesn't remember being in the air crib, she is amazed at the controversy that surrounded it. In Skinner's daughters, people see reflected the two sides of the man himself. On the one hand, the artistic rebel, and the other view of Skinner as a conservative intellectual. Skinner's oldest daughter, Julie, is an educational psychologist.
He has always been to me, a very warm person. In fact, I think he has a tendency to be quite sentimental. This also surprises a lot of people.
Perhaps it is equally as surprising to see the man whose theories have revolutionized the world's thinking about man's behavior playing the organ for one of his grandchildren. But music has always been a part of Skinner's life. He and his mother both played the piano. Later, Skinner took up the saxophone and played in the high school jazz band.
But leaving the three trees, a remarkable number of
Another one of Skinner's favorite pastimes is play reading. He regularly meets with a group of friends and neighbors to dramatize selected literary works.
That knowledge is a possibility only in matters which can be demonstrated to be true or false, such as that the Bristol train leaves from Paddington Station. And even then, on the understanding that all the observable phenomena associated with the train leaving Paddington could as easily be represented by Paddington leaving the train.
One adult and two children. Come on, we're going to love this. This one, look up here, this one is going that way because the water is coming on over on the outside. And this one is going that way because the water is going on the
My
underside.
father has always been
pretty?
particularly enchanted by young children. Anything they do fascinates him.
Yes, right.
Unlike many futuristic thinkers, Skinner believes that the family unit is all important. What we have forgotten, he says, is that any human relationship must bring mutual rewards.
See how much the doll weighs? The whole question of what to do about the family in American life, of course, is a very important one. We get very careless in the way in which we treat others we're living closely with, and we can improve that by shifting from the careless, punitive measures we're so likely to resort to because they seem to work instantly, and turn to the positive effects which are associated with love and affection, which in the long run have much more powerful positive effects and would make for a much more harmonious family unit.
Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you.
Reinforcement. Well, shall I?
I guess you have.
Before we burn it out. You help me, Teen.
You read it.
Ready, Teen? Here we go.
For reinforcement.
No, what's that say?
That's right.
Blow out candles to get reinforced.
Candles.
Something's going to happen if I blow it out.
That's
Now,
right.
Reinforce. Would you help me blow now?
It's hard for Lisa to blow because she has some teeth missing. The wind whistles
I
through.
thought they were those candles that don't go out, are they? They really went out.
How does it feel to be 70 then?
Well, a little different from 69, I suppose.
He's like any other grandfather. He loves his grandchildren. He loves children in general. It's relaxation, and he's granddaddy. You know, he's not anybody who needs to be awed and watched out for. He's just granddaddy to the kids.
Grandchildren, of course, always participate in birthday parties with a good deal of joie de vivre, and that helps because it reminds you of what birthday parties were like when they were not such solemn occasions, and when they did not signalize the transition into the older regions of one's existence.
If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Those words were written by Henry David Thoreau more than 100 years ago, when he walked the shores here at Walden Pond. Success has come to B.F. Skinner in a life filled with controversy, yet rich with knowledge gleaned from many years of careful observation. He, like Thoreau, was a rebel, and he marched to a different drummer. For the most part, he has preferred to work alone. So long criticized for his theories on behavior modification, he is now indifferent to such criticism. It is perhaps true, however, that he and Darwin have shared the worst press in history. But history will remember B.F. Skinner well for his contribution to man's knowledge of the world in which he lives.